information alone were enough, you would already be exactly as visible and confident as you want to be. You know the frameworks, you understand the theory. You may already know that you should speak clearly, build relationships, advocate for yourself, and also contribute earlier in meetings. But in the moment, when someone suddenly asks for your opinion, when you're standing at a networking event, or when the meeting is moving faster than you can organize your thoughts, the old patterns take over. You hesitate, you start monitoring yourself, you search for the perfect sentence, and then the opportunity passes before you're completely ready. The gap between knowing and doing is rarely a knowledge problem. It's actually an integration problem. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to close that gap so you can become more visible at work without becoming the loudest person in the room. Throughout this playlist, we've talked about speaking up in meetings, building professional relationships, and using small talk more effectively, and contributing before you feel completely ready. All of those skills do matter, but a collection of these really clever phrases aren't going to automatically translate into leadership presence. Knowing what to say is only one part of visibility. You also need to trust your perspective. Recognize what the moment requires, structure your thought, communicate it clearly, and repeat that behavior often enough that it becomes part of how you lead. And this is where integration comes in. The framework that I want to give you is ready, read, respond, reinforce. And this is how you move from understanding communication intellectually to actually using it when the stakes are real. So the first step is ready. Most people think preparation means scripting every possible sentence or predicting every question that they might be asked. And that can feel really productive, but it often adds so much pressure because you enter the room trying to remember a performance instead of staying in the present of the conversation. So a more useful kind of preparation actually begins with your mindset. Before the interaction, replace your mindset of I need to sound impressive with I can contribute something useful. Then choose one small objective for that situation. Maybe you want to ask one clarifying question. Maybe you want to name one implication. And maybe you want to connect two people or two ideas. And that objective gives your attention somewhere useful to go. And this is useful because communication is situational. You may feel calm and confident with your team, then become more quiet around senior leaders. You may speak easily in a one-on-one conversation and struggle in a fast-moving group. You may know exactly what you think until someone asks for your opinion without any type of warning. So that doesn't mean your communication ability is not great. It actually just means certain situations activate a different type of pattern in you. So before you enter a higher pressure situation, ask yourself, what usually happens to me here? What am I likely to start believing? And what would a useful contribution actually look like? And what is one small action I am willing to take? You're not trying to eliminate every single nerve before you begin. You're preparing yourself to act while some discomfort is still present. The second step is read. So visibility isn't created by speaking at every possible opportunity. It's actually created by understanding what the situation needs and contributing accordingly. So read the room, the conversation, and the relationship. Does that moment need connection? Does it need clarification? Does someone need to challenge an assumption? And would it help to summarize the conversation? Is the group missing direction? Has everyone agreed too quickly without considering all the risks? And when you focus on what the moment needs, you move out of self-evaluation and into leadership. You stop asking, how do I sound? And begin asking yourself, what would help here? And this is where the framework from the rest of the playlist becomes useful. So in meetings, you can use listen, link, land. So listen to the current thread, link your contribution to what has already been said, and land with one clear point. In small talk, use anchor, reveal, encourage. So begin with something you both share, reveal a small amount about yourself, and encourage the other person into the conversation with an easy question. In networking, use give, learn, continue. Offer something useful, learn what matters to the other person, and create a credible reason for the relationship to continue. And the structure changes depending on the situation, but the principle will always stay the same. Pay attention to the moment before deciding how to enter it. This is one of the differences between visibility and just noise. Reading the situation gives you direction, but the next challenge is expressing your perspectives in a way that is both clear and connected. So the third step is respond. This is where authentic presence becomes visible. So authentic presence actually sits between confidence and connection. You stand in your expertise while still making room for other people. You communicate your value clearly while building trust, and you state your point without pretending that everyone else's perspective is irrelevant. So a framework that I use for this is acknowledge, add, and anchor. So let's look at a practical example. Imagine that a colleague proposes a timeline that you know is unrealistic. So you could withdraw and just say nothing, hoping someone else is going to identify the problem. Or you could respond with authentic presence. So that sounds like, I understand why Friday is attractive. Based on the approval steps, I see a significant delivery risk. I recommend Monday unless we remove one review stage. So here's what happened in that response. You acknowledged the goal, which is, I understand why Friday is attractive. You added your expertise. Based on the approval steps, I see a significant delivery risk. Then you anchored the contribution with a recommendation. I recommend Monday unless we remove one review stage. You didn't disappear. You didn't attack someone. You gave the room a clear interpretation and a useful path forward. And this is what leadership communication looks like in real time. If this is a skill you're trying to build, being able to stay connected to your thinking, speak with more clarity, and communicate your value when the moment is actually happening, this is exactly what we do inside the Scene Leadership Experience. This is a group program designed for capable professionals whose work is strong, but whose visibility, voice, or positioning has not caught up yet. We work on the person underneath the communication, the language that you use, the real world experiences that build confidence, and the positioning required for the next level. You can book a discovery call below to explore whether this program is right for you. And keep watching, because one strong contribution is helpful, but professional visibility is created through what happens next. The final step is reinforce. So career visibility isn't created through one major presentation or one perfect meeting. It's built through smaller moments that happen repeatedly. So the question you ask that clarifies the decision, the implication you name before the group commits, the colleague you connect to a useful resource, the idea you summarize so everyone can see the pattern, or the recommendation you make when the conversation needs direction. So these are really nano leadership moments. They may feel really small, but they actually give other people observable evidence of how you feel, what you think, how you communicate, and also how you influence the work. So really, performance matters, but people can't advocate for capability they never observe. So this is why following through matters as well. After you make the contribution, notice what happened. Did your question create clarity? Did your recommendation change the direction? Did someone ask you to expand on your point? And did the conversation continue after the meeting? Did someone begin involving you in more visible work? Track that as your evidence, then repeat the behavior. Because you don't need to wait for a transformation in your confidence. You need enough repeated experiences for that behavior to become familiar and for other people to begin recognizing it as a part of yourself. So here's a simple 7-day practice plan that you can integrate what we've covered. So day 1, prepare 3 meeting entry phrases. So you can choose language that you can reach for quickly, such as, I'll add 1 point. The implication I'm seeing is, the recommendation would be. Then day 2, use small talk to create comfort before a meeting. Use anchor, reveal, encourage to have 1 short conversation before the formal discussion begins. Day 3, you can ask 1 clarifying question. Choose a question that actually improves the quality of the conversation. So, what decision are we trying to make today? What risk are we accepting? Who owns the next step? Day 4, use acknowledge, add, anchor, and find 1 opportunity to acknowledge the goal, add your expertise, and anchor with a question or a recommendation. And follow up with 1 professional connection on day 5. Send a resource, check in on something the person mentioned, or arrange a follow-up conversation. Day 6, record a 60-second response to what are you working on, and practice describing your work in a way that includes the business relevance and not only the tasks. Day 7, review the evidence and ask, what did I do? What effect did it have? Which behavior do I want to repeat? And which one am I ready to strengthen next? This is how integration happens. You prepare, you use the skills in real situations, and then you observe the results and repeat. So you don't develop leadership presence by consuming more information. Communication is relational, so trying to develop it entirely in isolation is a flawed plan. So these frameworks are useful, but information alone is rarely the missing ingredient. Most people actually know they should speak clearly and build more relationships or to advocate themselves more. The difficulty is applying those behaviors in the situations where old patterns take over. That's why the Scene Leadership Experience doesn't focus only on scripts. The program follows the Scene Leadership Method. So S, self, you identify the beliefs, internal roles, and the patterns that cause you to shrink, over-prepare, over-function, or hold back. E, expression. So you build practical language for meetings, boundaries, networking, influence, and self-advocacy. Experience is you practice in real workplace situations and you accumulate evidence of your capability. And next level, you position your expertise, aspirations, scope, and also leadership value so that decision makers can actually recognize and act on it. So inside the program, you're not simply consuming information. You receive frameworks, feedback, accountability, real-world application, and repetition with other professionals who are working through similar challenges. So that matters because you can understand a communication framework perfectly and still need support using it with the leader who intimidates you, in the meeting where you usually shut down, or in the career conversation you have delayed for 6 months. So this program helps you to close that gap. Speaking confidently is not about becoming the loudest person in the room. It's about becoming easier to see, understand, trust, and advocate for. You prepare yourself to contribute rather than perform. So you read what the moment requires. You respond with a balance of self-advocacy and connection. Then you reinforce the behavior through follow-up, evidence, and repetition. And this is how communication becomes visible leadership. The ultimate goal here is not to be so polished. It's being able to use your judgment, perspective, and voice in real time when the work and your career require it. So if your performance is already strong, but your visibility, voice, or positioning has not caught up yet, the SEEN leadership experience may be the right next step. Book a discovery call below and we can explore what is currently getting in the way, what you want to change, and whether the program is the right fit for your growth. Because you don't need to become a different person to be seen more clearly. You do need a way to make the leadership you already bring easier for other people to recognize.